Hey, so this is my comic haul and review of the past 2 weeks, and it's a lot. So it's a big pile. Oops. Okay, so I've separated them into not the weeks that were bought, but into publishers. And yeah, just finished reading them today. But yeah, this 2 weeks, and this week's comics haul was 18 comics, and I think last week's was 10 or something like that, so it's quite big. So I'm going to start with the Marvel ones. I only got 3 Marvel comics because they're the only ones I like at the moment, and that could be getting even less. So first one up, Incredible Hulk, number 6. Nick Klein is back on the artwork. Yeah, artwork's great, story's great, but I'm not as invested in it as I was when I first started reading it because of the change in artists all the time. You just don't know who's going to be on. Like Nick Klein, I think was on for the first 2 or 3 issues, and then there was Travel Foreman on for 2 issues or 3 issues, and now Nick Klein's back on. And in another few issues, there's a new artist coming on. Forgot his name. I did mention him last night in the previews what I went through. And I think he's on for about 2 or 3 issues. So it just throws you out of the flow of the comic, because they look drastically different, the characters. So story wise, I give it an 8 out of 10. Art wise, 9 out of 10. But as a whole, I give it about an 8 out of 10. So I will be carrying on with it for the foreseeable future. And I do want to point out the quality of the comic. The paper is shocking. The cover nearly came off in my hands. It's that flimsy. So yeah, you're not getting your money's worth. And again, and with Marvel, it's only 20 story pages as well, but $3.99, so average price. And then the next one we've got is Blade number 5. I do like the cover. It's just marred a bit by the advert at the top for the Marvels. I have nothing against the Marvels, but I just don't like product placement like that around the cover. It ruins the impacts of the cover. The story, I felt like, I don't know, I feel like they're trying to spread it out to a six issue story when they could trim quite a few pages from each issue to make it a 4 or a 5 issue story. It felt a bit, I'd say it's meant to be like a fast paced story. It felt very slow. The artwork's better. The artist Casagrande, the back on it again, and the colouring's improved a hell of a lot since the first few issues. But yeah, I don't know. I'll see how I feel once this storyline finishes. So yeah, it's obviously that's the big bad, and there's been some twists and turns for such a slow story as well. It feels like there's bits in it that have been missed out in the plot, what you've got to like piece together for yourself, which so it just feels a bit frustrating at times. So I'd give this a 6.57 out of 10. Like I said, I'll decide with the next issue whether it's going to be my last one or if I'll carry on. And then next up, with a gorgeous cover, one of the Stormbreaks artists, Captain Marvel number 2. Really enjoyed this. It builds on the fun of the first one. I enjoyed Kelly Thompson's one, but I thought Kelly Thompson's run was marred by the sheer volume of crossovers that she had on her comics. Like Empire went on for ages, and just the sheer instability with the artist. The artist kept on changing sometimes mid-issue. But this team of Alyssa Wong and I've forgotten the artist's name. Yeah, great fart. I just can't be bothered. Too many comics to go through. But anyway, the team who's currently doing Captain Marvel, really enjoying it. I love that they brought the negative bands back, or the Negamans, because it gives that throwback feel to the classic Captain Marvel of the 70s with when Rick Jones used to swap bodies with him. Yeah, it's a really fun comic. It's some great character studies as well. The new character, Chula Shikada, I can't remember. You gotta bear with me because I'm a bit bad today with fatigue. I think I did too much recording last night and I stayed up late to watch Doctor Who because I get it on Amazon. Oh, bad way. Go and watch Doctor Who. Fantastic. But yeah, yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. So I will try the next issue. If this team stays on, then I'll stay with the comic. And I'll give this an 8.5 out of 10. Good arts, good story. And that's the end of my Marvel. Just one from Dark Horse, and this is a comic I've been singing the praises of for a long time now. And it's The Oddly Pedestrian Life of Christopher Chaos. This is issue 5. $4.99. You get a very high quality cover. You get 28 story pages. The paper is a nice glossy stock, and you get, I think, 4 or 6 pages of character sketches development in the back as well. So it is I'd say it's the best value comic on the stands at the moment, and the story is so good. It's concepts by James Tanyan, and it's I think it's Nick Bromble who's the writer, or Tyler Bromble, somebody like that. I forgot his first name. But yeah, this comic gets better with every issue. It's kind of like mixing a YA novel with the horror tropes of Hellboy, with a dash of Doom Patrol kind of weirdness thrown in. And it just, like I said, people should be buying this. A good clue, like, it's going to be good. James Tanyan's has attached his name to it. It's part of his Tiny Onion imprint. Pardon me. Oh. I woke up so sniffly and snotty today. And yeah, it's basically done like a 21st century update of like the classic Universal monster tropes, and it's just so much fun. Very LGBTQ friendly. So if you're somebody who's a bigot, you're gonna hate this, which makes it even more fun. And yeah, the story pace is so good. I don't want to give too much away. You need to read it. You really do. I think they are still quite easy to get. Initially, it was going to be a 6-issue miniseries, but the good news is, I only found out last week it's being extended to an ongoing now. So that shows that it's gaining steam. It's gaining popularity, and yeah, it's one of the most fresh comics. It's got a very strong world building element to it, and it gives a fresh, fun slant on horror. So it's horror without being horrific. It's more like the lore of horror tropes, and I give this a 9 out of 10. Oh, sorry, I'm so snotty. And then I think there's a Stegman cover. I could be wrong, but this is Kill Your Darlings number 3. I sang the praises on a special episode of the first 2 issues of a series to look out for, and this expands even more. Like, the second issue went back to the Salem period of the Salem witch trials. This one goes back even further, and there's a scene on the 3rd page where I was just like, oh my god, this is definitely not for kids. It goes very dark for a panel, very, very dark, and then it jumps to the main story. So it doesn't dwell on it too much, but it gives you that enough of a shock impact to keep you wanting to know what's that all about. So it heavily builds upon the fantasy merging with reality and vice versa. So now the main character, she and her friends, have stepped over with the help of the little elephant guy into the fantasy land, and things happen. This comic does not let up. It's like Christopher Chaos, when the pace just keeps getting ramps and ramps and ramps and ramps. It keeps you invested, and the last page finishes on such a great page that you want the next issue straight away. So again, 9 out of 10. There's so many good comics at the moment. And then next, from Image again, via Skybound, it's part of the Energon universe, and it's Void Rivals number 6. So there's bits in this what left me a bit confused, because I don't know any of the Transformers lore. So a bit of the Energon universe, it's very accessible, because like I said, I'm a complete newbie, but I think you get more from it if you do know quite a bit of Transformers lore. But the artwork is great, nice European art from Lorenzo De Felici. So it makes you feel like you're not reading, and if it's something about toys or a toy universe, but you're reading more like a European sci-fi comic. Yeah, it's good. I wouldn't say, but I think now that Transformers has come out, that's one that I look forward to in this universe. This one is more like your meat and potatoes one, where it's just very solid and dependable. but it's taking a break now, I think, until March, so all the other comics in the Hasbro universe can catch up. And yeah, it was satisfying. I'd give you about 7.5 out of 10. I most likely will return for it because it gives you a nice enough gap to save your pennies for a bit. And this comic I did a special episode for, singing the praise of the first issue, and that's Universal Monsters Dracula by James Tynion and Martin Simmons. And issue number 2, as you can tell from that cover, just builds up on the first one, and the quality doesn't let up. And again, James Tynion the fourth does something that he doesn't normally do in his comics. He lets the art speak more than his words. So there's whole panels, whole pages where it's just the art, what you're following. And for some comics, you can speed read a comic and you don't take in the art, but for this one, you really do read the art as well, and the art is just gorgeous. I will just open this one up to show you, because it's I think more people need to be buying this. But for an example of the panel of him not using words on some panels, these two pages are just fantastic. And yeah, it's an adaptation of a classic, one of the first horror movies, but doing it from a different viewpoint. Not doing it where the focus is on Dracula, but it's the other characters, and it's an enjoyable, fresh take on a classic story, and it's one of the most beautiful comics I've read this year. Definitely go. I'm just going to pause for a second. I'm getting a nose problem.